Welcome everybody, and especially welcome to Anne MacIntyre. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Sandy. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you with me today to talk about your beautiful photographs. Those people who know the channel and also my students who've done a lot of nature photographs with me know you very well already. We've used you a lot in class as a means of studying the beauty of nature.
That's lovely, I'm honoured.
Would you say that you do, in fact, quite deliberately make a study of nature as beauty?
Well, definitely. I love flowers. I love all flowers, and I love growing flowers. And I've just recently, in the last year, got an allotment so that I can grow more flowers and then actually pick them, so that then I can take photos of them without feeling guilty, because I feel guilty if I pick the ones in my own garden.
So you swoop in. You're not one of those naughty people we see leaning over people's garden fences and kind of snipping off quickly a beautiful rose or something of abundance.
I haven't done that. I might take pictures of them, but I haven't taken them.
Well, you've come to photography in quite a circuitous route, I suppose. In fact, I don't even know if I could call it that. You started out scientist, then an accountant. Do you want to give us a sense of who you are and how you've arrived here?
Well, I think I'm probably easily bored. I keep doing different things. So yes, I did a chemistry degree and then a PhD, and then a complete change, and I became a chartered accountant and worked in London and worked for an investment bank. Then had children, so I stopped working and looked after the children. And started being interested in photography because I wanted to take some decent pictures of the children. And I think I improved at taking pictures of them, but they're not the best subjects because they don't stay still for long. So that's quite tricky for learning photography. And I did a brief course a few years ago, just locally, just to learn about my camera a little bit more, and improved on taking pictures of the children. And then in 2019, I did a free online course called A Year with My Camera.
Yeah.
And that really helped me focus on what the camera did and on what I was doing with it. And that was then, the children are so much older that then they weren't even interested in having a picture taken at all. So I took pictures of what I could see around me and what I liked, which happened to be flowers.
I would like to just mention the course you did, Emma Davies, isn't it, who did, it's a really brilliant resource, that website and the blog. I would like to just mention it so people, if they are interested, could go and have a look at that. I know that she's very, very proud actually, because you and one other from her course and from her site actually went on and became actually competition prize winners. And so
yeah, that's right.
Doing something absolutely amazing. Like, I really would love to know like her top tips for teaching to create such amazing photographers such as you, really. I just want to show the next image on the slide. I don't feel like we've really talked about this one, but this is really the one that drew my attention to you, first of all. And this is Ethereal Cosmos, and it won the International Garden Photographer of the Year award. And I'm assuming that everybody looking on the screen now will probably be able to say that they too would award this photograph a prize. It is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. How did you end up entering the competition?
Well, I had entered it the year before. This won the black and white section, so not this, but the whole competition, just for fun. And they've got lots of sections and lots of amazing, amazing photos with professional photographers doing it all. And so I just had a go and didn't win anything at all, didn't get, nothing. But I think it makes you really self-critical of your own work, and then that gives you a chance to improve. So just by looking at your own set of photos and thinking, well, is there anything here good enough that I think I could enter? Or just say, well, I want to enter 2 of my best photos. Which are my best photos? Even just that process helped me critically look at each photo and say, well, is that good? Is that, well, it's good because of this, but oh, that's wrong with it, or that's wrong with it. That one wouldn't do. So what about the next one? And it let me choose which was the best one.
I'm interested to know about kind of like this critical feedback that we give to ourselves. Like what is the thing in your own criticism that you are doing? What is it you are giving yourself as the criteria for the criticism?
Probably all the things that you would look at if you were, hopefully the things you look at if you're judging a photo, or if you're maybe selecting, if you're going to do a portfolio with your own artwork or something, you look to see, well, what should I include? What should I not include? And if there's anything out of focus somewhere in it, or something distracting, or I don't know, just sort of all the things that might be wrong with it in some way, or the colour might be, obviously this is black and white, but the colours might not go together all that well.
Image at the start. I mean, when you make photographs like this, are you very, very truthful and then the kind of recording of things like colour, or are you playing around with it post-production as well?
Mostly I'm very truthful, so I do try and check. I'll even check when I look at them on the computer, I can adjust the warmth or the tones and things of it, and I will actually get my flower and have a look. And I find red is particularly difficult, so I will bring my flower to my computer and have a compare and see if I can get it right. And I don't know, I don't feel that I can get red right very often, but yeah.
With colour, the kind of the chromatic, the slightest difference transforms the entire feeling or sense of an image. I always find when I look at images like this, I mean, I put this on the very first slide so that people coming into our interview will see this first. One, it's a beautiful photograph. It's exactly as I would want to feel close to that flower, because you brought us into the space with it. But the colour is so extraordinary. And I just wonder, we are really complacent about how extraordinary nature is on its own without us intervening, really. So I'm interested to know whether you do enhance colour, or whether you are quite strict with yourself. You just leave it as it is, allow nature to reveal it.
I do pretty much leave it as it is. Yeah, I think with that one it was luck that it was the green behind that toned in nicely.
But then when we have no colour, would you say this is still a truthful representation?
Gosh, I don't know. Yes, but I think it the petals somehow look a little bit more unreal somehow, a bit more translucent, or there is something about the petals there.
I mean, I wrote down in my notes when I was looking through, I mean, Anne was very kind. She sent me photographs direct, as well as me looking at and just knowing her work from what is available to see online. But I wrote down here, it seems to me that there is an expression of your actual relationship with nature. But I did wonder if you're presenting a fantasy about what nature should be. With this photograph, this is like quite literally the prize-winning photograph, isn't it? And you have all these other very beautiful photographs, but this is the one that has, brought you out as a photographer, and to people's notice and attention more kind of widely and publicly. Is this a fantasy of nature, or is this still keying us back in with what it really is?
That's interesting. It doesn't look as real as the original in colour. And I think black and white simplifies a picture or a flower. And particularly when I change my colour pictures to black, because I take them all in colour and then convert them to black and white. And as I do that, I do also increase the texture. And that combination gives what a lot of people comment on to me, that it looks like it could be a pencil drawing, which would mean that it wouldn't, you know, and that is a representation rather than a true image. And I see that, and I like that look about it. So I would say, yeah, it's not quite as real.
Because to me, this is kind of like a surrealist image of a flower. And I say that also, but I mean, yeah. I'm such a sucker for these kinds of things because I'm bringing my training, I suppose, to this. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, actually, I know it's not a solarized image, but nonetheless, it could still, it has that quality of solarization. It could be a Man Ray photograph. Equally, it could be an Imogen Cunningham or a, well, there's just such a long tradition of people looking at nature and bringing it to our attention, but through their own lens, quite literally. And when Anne MacIntyre looks at this beautiful flower, you're translating the beauty for us. But I wonder about the way that we seek to change things so they become more beautiful. And if it's more beautiful to you because of how you've changed it, or if it's simply beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's more beautiful than maybe the original. I think maybe that is what I'm aiming for, yeah.
You know, you sent me lots of photographs that are really about your wider photographic interests. You are looking very keenly always, it seems, in a very close proximity to things that you like to get right in amongst whatever it is, whether it's flowers or rather alarmingly a giant lion. Yeah. When you make photographs like this, when you're not photographing flowers, what is it you're looking for from the world at large?
Gosh, I don't know really. I put these in to show that, you know, I can take photos of anything just as everybody else will take sort of a snap of where they are and what they're looking at. And, you know, we were on safari, so with everybody else, we were taking pictures of all the animals that we were lucky enough to see.
So this is an interesting thing, you know, because before we came on to record, we were talking about whether one can call oneself a photographer, how that makes us feel when we are kind of owning being a photographer. When you were making these photographs, you just said there that this is like everybody else goes and takes these photographs. Do you really think everybody else takes these photographs?
Yeah. I think everybody else tries and just takes the picture of what's there. And then I think, you know, to take all the safari pictures, you've got to spend hours and hours and hours out there to get an even more perfect angle and the lighting just right. And you've got to, you know, with that giraffe, I was frustrated that I only saw that portion of the giraffe. You know, what I really wanted was a flat background and then a whole giraffe silhouetted, but of course that wasn't possible just that one day that we were there. But
well, you described
I like that picture because that's the best one that I took. You know,
you described your frustration at taking photographs of your children because they were always moving I suppose when you're on safari, you're moving and everything else is moving often as well. So we actually had another image that we're not going to show, but it was actually a photograph of your children with their cousins on a holiday. And I did take it out because we have to be very careful, obviously, about sharing images of children. But I do want to talk to you about, you know, this early sense that you wanted to learn more about taking photographs because you wanted to photograph your own children really well. When you photograph humans, are you often dissatisfied with the outcome? I mean, a flower is there and you can completely control it.
Definitely. I think, yeah, I have a lot of admiration for photographers who take pictures of family groups and weddings, and you know, there are a lot of photographers that do that, and they have to get everything right just in that short time, you know. So yeah, when I look at the pictures of all our family groups, they've definitely improved. To be fair, my family have improved at doing what I tell them and posing for my photos. So they have learned too. But you can't be in control quite so much of all the lighting and all the detail around it. So I'm under a lot more time pressure to take all the photos of the children, whereas, you know, with my flower, I can, you know, I spent all afternoon with these flowers, taking lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of pictures. And I didn't really appreciate this one until I looked at them later.
I've come back to this as a kind of blown up version because it's beautiful to see the entirety of the image, but just to come in even closer. And again, because I've enlarged it so much, obviously there has been a slight loss of the integrity of the line and the contrast. But again, if you can tell us a little bit sort of technically, you mentioned in a lot of the feedback to interviewers you gave after you won the competition that you wanted to learn the kind of craft of technical photography, how to use your camera properly, that there was really an inquiry there for you, this technical, maybe the scientist in you, you know, wanting to explore and find that out, how to use this equipment. When you were making this photograph, what kind of technical top tips would you give to somebody else who wanted to try and recreate something like this?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a scientist in me that wants to analyze why one picture looks a certain way and why another picture looks a certain way, with, you know, the F number and all the rest of that, all the detail of it. And I think particularly down to the macro photography, so the close-up photography, that brings out the detail of exactly what settings you're choosing, because you can make it so different depending on whether you want just one little bit to be in focus or the whole flower to be in focus, and which bit of it is in focus. And so I really enjoy that technical aspect of it, and I enjoyed that even if I don't get a good photo. I enjoy every time I get a new flower like this flower. Then I took, gosh, I don't know how many, I must have taken hundreds of pictures when I took this one. And, you know, I worked at all different F numbers to see which worked best. And to be honest, I can't really see which is best until I put them all on my computer and then look at them in this sort of level of detail to see which one I like best.
Have you ever shot in film? Have you ever used film photography? Has it always been digital?
No, I have taken pictures ever since I was young, because my dad used to like photography. And yeah, I did take pictures then, but of course you don't get that instant feedback. And then I have actually developed my own pictures. I've developed the film and then printed a few pictures from it, which is really time consuming.
I think if you're a perfectionist, yes, it can be, can't it? I mean, we speak at school a lot about, you know, I have students who will take hundreds of photographs and then they'll edit back, and they completely freak out at the idea that at some point somebody somewhere had to just rely on 36 exposures, and in that limitation take fantastic photographs. That's really terrifying to a lot of younger photographers. And I mean, I'm teaching now, and none of the students I teach have had access, even through their parents, to film photography. Do you think that being able to take hundreds of photographs makes you a better photographer overall, or do you think it waters down what any of us can do?
I think it does make it easier, and yeah, I think it makes it easier to choose that specific one that's the best. But there's definitely a huge skill in being able to get it all right first time and take amazing pictures. And because there are so many pictures, it really doesn't matter whether it, you know, what the setting was, but if you've got it generally right, you know, the composition of the photo is the main thing in a lot of cases.
Your composition is often very, it's centralized, isn't it? There's a lot of the photographs you take of flowers, particularly, again, this idea that we are in close proximity to the flower, and that also it's right in the middle of our space. So it's completely occupying for us. Is that deliberate, and is that something that you set out always to do, is to make sure that we have this full access to the entirety of the flower?
Yeah, sometimes I do go in a bit closer, but mostly I do like to see the whole flower and the sort of pattern of it. I'm not sure that, yeah, maybe, you know, I'm sort of thinking now, looking at that, I should have moved it to the side a bit more, but.
When you photograph the very kind of delicate nature of these flowers, do you want us to feel like we could or should touch that flower, or do you want us to feel as if we are passive and looking only? Is it look, don't touch?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that before. I suppose it is a very flat image. I think, yeah, I'm not really sure. I think maybe that would come into it when you're printing them. And I think that's quite a different thing, that, you know, if you've taken your picture on the old-fashioned sort of film, then you've got to actually print them out to see them, because you've only got that tiny little negative to start off with, and you really sort of have to print it out in order to see your picture properly. You can't just pop it on a screen. And so the whole process of printing them, you've got all those choices of what you do at that stage and the paper that you choose. So I think probably it might differ whether if you're looking at it on a screen. I think it's not so much that you'd feel like touching it, but maybe if you print it out onto a very textured paper, you might want to be touching it, and you might be thinking, oh, this is the sort of flower I want to reach out and touch.
I also asked because of the element of kind of like the sense of creating a museum to something through how one makes the photograph. And, you know, we are looking at flowers that, you know, flowers are abundant and available to most people. And yet when you photograph them, you elevate them I've spoken a lot with students about this kind of idea that we elevate even the most ordinary things, and we suddenly then are brought in close to the extraordinary nature of things that we otherwise take for granted. But I am really interested in the sense that here is something that we could encounter, and yet through you giving us the opportunity to encounter in your image, we are separated from it as well. It's so interesting with generally in photographs, this idea of whether we want to enter the space or whether we understand that we're not meant to be in that space, that it's meant to be kind of like a hallowed, special thing, that we can look at it, but that we are separate.
Yeah. So my interpretation of that would be that I suppose I try to look at the flower, to freeze it in time and take a picture of it from its best side to show its best. So this is the picture I try to get at the end should be the best picture of that flower that it could be on that day. You know, that's it. So it might look worse from other angles, or you know, it might flop over, or the petals might not align themselves quite so nicely if it's blown around. But just I want to capture the moment when it's looking its best.
And also, do you see these flowers as flowers, or do you also then have, you know, are they symbolic?
Not particularly. I'm just looking at them as flowers.
Yeah, I just wonder because, you know, there's so many examples. Again, you know, we study your work. We studied Keith Dotson's work as well, another photographer that I've been very lucky to interview. But we also looked at painters like Georgia O'Keeffe, who for decades was unable to shake off the fact that everybody saw female genitalia in her photographs. I'm not saying that that is the case with with her paintings. It's not the case with your photographs, but I do wonder if there's still another kind of subtext, or if there's something else, or if it is, again, this idea of truthful, it is the flower. We don't need to go anywhere else with it. It's perfect in its own, it's complete in its own form.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else going on in my head, but if, you know, if it's interesting to hear that you have looked at it and analysed it. So, you know, you might see more than I do. And I find it quite interesting that I can even see in my own work, there's a slight sort of trend or similarity between the photos I've taken, sort of my interpretation of them. I'm not even sure what that is, but I can see there's something about it. And I can see there's something about some other photographers that I see their work, and you can even be taking pictures of different things, but I can spot who's taken. You can tell there's a kind of a signature to what their work, and you can see who's taken what picture. And I really, that's a complete mystery to me. I don't know what it is that comes through, what personality comes through that you can see, but it's amazing.
As a kind of homework for you to get back to me about, and I can share with my students, like the kind of, if you were to think about what is Anne MacIntyre's signature beyond flowers, what are the visual qualities that make you the photographer you are? You know, it's like handwriting, isn't it? You recognize somebody's handwriting.
It is, yeah. No, I was thinking that as well. Yes, no, it really is. There is a signature to people's work, and gosh, I'll have a go.
It's an exercise we do at school as well, actually. It's you know, thinking about if we leave prints lying around in the classroom. God, that seems like a million years ago now, but
yeah.
you'd pick them up and you'd say, oh, that belongs to that person. Or the other thing I wonder about is that I think I know the answer to this already, but did you set about cultivating a style?
No.
No. And it happens naturally, doesn't it? As you're saying, you could look at many different photographers and find the signature. And I think for a lot of people, they don't ever intend to cultivate a style. It happens naturally. Something, you know, as idiosyncratic and as authentic and unique as, well, any part of our character.
Yeah, I think so. It's very strange. It really is strange. That
do you
like
think
you say,
being a photographer has become part of your character? Like when you're at you know, again, million miles from now, but at dinner parties and things, do you say, I'm Anne MacIntyre? Someone says, oh, what do you do? Do you say, oh, I'm a photographer?
No.
Never. My goodness. That's your other part of the homework. That's my challenge, is when we're allowed to go out and about. You've got to introduce yourself as Anne MacIntyre, photographer, with a capital P.
No, I might tell people I've taken some photos.
Oh, it's so interesting listening to people. Again, before we started recording, we were talking about this. Some people just automatically give themselves the right to call themselves a photographer. And so many other people, no matter how brilliant their work is, never get the, I don't know what it is. It's not courage, but it's just that the assertiveness or the authority to say, I'm a photographer.
Yeah, no, maybe it is a bit of courage. I think I don't earn a living from photography, so I suppose I don't see it, and I don't see it as the main thing that I do. So I suppose that it wouldn't be the first thing that would spring to mind. But yeah, I would definitely end up, you know, if I was with somebody and talking about things that we like doing, then yes, it would probably come up. And in fact, all the time that I'm out and about, I do always sort of look around and think, oh, that would make a nice photo. That would make a nice photo, even if I haven't got my camera on me. And you know, landscapes and things, even if I'm not sort of, that's not the thing that I mostly take pictures of. But I do now often see things as though they were a photo. So in the real world, I'll be thinking, oh yeah, no, that would look like this in a photo, or that would look like that in a photo.
Do you have any key influences? I mean, have you, you know, this kind of maybe ties back in with cultivating a style, which it might not even be conscious, but if you've had a lot of exposure to certain photographers, is there any photographer whose work you've really admired?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, there are lots. There are so many amazing people on Instagram that I follow. I started putting pictures on there as part of that course that I did a year with my camera, because a lot of people put pictures on there and then you could share them. And so then I looked at just other pictures, that people that were taking pictures. There's a lady, Jackie Parker, who takes pictures of flowers. Her pictures were amazing. All the people on the competition page, that competition, which is all sorts of landscape and then detailed flowers, and so some of those people that had won that, I looked them up just to sort of see what they do, and it is great to be able to look at a whole series of pictures that somebody else has taken. So yes, I've looked at lots and lots of work that other people have done.
Instagram has really democratized photography. You know, it was so elitist for such a long time. And again, that, I mean, joking aside, the sense of being a photographer with a capital P was very closed to most people, and now it's not. But then there's a flip side to that, which is that very often there are people who will call themselves photographers, and I wonder what makes a photographer. I wonder when we fall into this sudden being of being a photographer. You know, is it when we win a competition? Is it when we make money? That seems terribly transactional, though. There's something else maybe that makes us a photographer. But is it enough to say I'm a photographer simply because I take photographs?
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose, to be fair, I would call myself an amateur photographer. So I suppose to say just photographer, I would feel that it had to be a professional thing. Whereas I suppose maybe a lot of people would call themselves amateur photographers. Then that actually doesn't mean that they don't take fabulous pictures. You know, maybe better than plenty of professional photographers, but that's the way in which they're enjoying taking the photographs.
Do you enjoy taking photographs?
Oh, I love it.
You love it.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So it's the best hobby for me, because when I give myself that time to sit and take a picture of a photo, absolutely everything else goes out of my head, and I am just completely focusing on that one task. And I love it. Yeah, I just really enjoy it because I'm looking at something that I think is beautiful. Yeah. So that makes me happy. And then hopefully I end up with a really nice picture at the end of it too. So
there is a real meditative quality. I find it with drawing. A lot of students' feedback that the drawings, especially now in lockdown, me and my colleagues are all doing live drawing sessions, all the time. And actually, in some ways, we're drawing more maybe, or I am certainly, because I have to draw live, where it maybe in actual class I would demonstrate something quite quickly and then let 30 people go off and try and do it. Now they're all staying with me, very close quarters, even though it's just on screen. So it's like live drawing all the time, and it's a lovely sense of meditation. But I also find the same, especially the students who've done the nature project with me, so that's year 10, that a lot of them have felt very, closer to nature because of photographing nature. And they felt very, a peacefulness, oneness with flower forms, for example, or leaves.
Well, definitely. And there's been so much comment at the moment that it's good for people to get outside, so people are enjoying gardening more, and maybe that it's part of that, and if you bring a little bit of the garden inside to draw or take a picture of, that's all good for you too.
Do you put your photographs, do you print them and put them around your house? Do you like
yeah. You see that? So I didn't used to, but then I was very proud of that one. And the room I'm in here used to be our playroom when the children were a bit younger. So the children decided to redecorate it with their spare time over the summer. So they've redecorated it and made us a lovely study. So usually my husband works in here, and there's musical instruments in here. So this is all been done up. So then I said, well, we'll put some of the photography on the walls.
And do other people, want and covet your photographs?
A little bit.
I'm just gonna put that out there. If you happen to have a spare few prints of ethereal cosmos lying around, I've got a nice.
I do. Yeah, I do. Well, I've done an Etsy shop with some cards and prints. So yes, I've had a go at doing that. Yes.
Because they're very in and of themselves, like the process you're describing of making them is very meditative. That's I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that is kind of, I think, what I'm taking from what you're saying.
Yep.
But even in looking at them, there's something so quietening rather. There's something very peaceful in simply looking at them, all of them.
Yeah, no, that's nice. It's nice to know.
Even when it's not your normal subject matter. You know, the giraffe silhouette, yes, so familiar from many people who go on safari, these kinds of photographs, the beautiful bleed of colour and the silhouetted animal, but it's so quiet. All your work is so quiet, peaceful. Do you think that says, what does that say about you? I mean, are you quiet and peaceful?
Quiet, yeah, probably.
Quiet, full human.
Yeah.
They really are very beautiful. I could look at them all day. And I think actually that is something, you know, there's lots of photographs that are very agitating. And then they can be, you know, stark and startling and profoundly beautiful, but I don't want to spend time with them. Whereas with your work, I have something that I could spend so much time with, kind of just absorb into them.
No, you're right. They are still. I agree. Yeah, no, I think that's very interesting to observe. Yeah, and even when I take pictures of a whole lot of flowers in a whole really colourful way, I quite like them to be against a black background and slightly dark, and I think that makes the whole picture much more muted, as opposed to very zingy and bright.
But this brings me back into a question we've already kind of tackled, which is about symbol and meaning. So sometimes I think we assume that symbol and meaning has to be about something grand and obvious, or grand and kind of powerful in a way that is really noisy. But the symbolism here is in and of it itself. The flower is the flower the symbol of peace, of peacefulness, of contemplation.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, the noisiest of all your photographs is that one. But I think that's just because it's got such a high contrast. It's the judges commented on this, that they said this work uses black and white to add something special, not take it away. When you got feedback like that, how did that make you feel?
Very proud. A bit concerned that I felt they implied, I think one of them sort of said, oh, you know, I'd intended it to be a black and white photo right from the moment I'd taken it, and I didn't. I took a colour picture, and then it was only when I had a go, so it was a year ago, this time a year ago, that I had a go at looking at a whole lot of pictures to see how they looked in black and white, because I didn't know much about black and white before then. And it was only because I went through a whole lot of them to see what looked good in black and white that I appreciated this one in black and white, that actually the pink tinges to the petals were lovely in colour, so the pink was lovely, but the really bright yellow at the centre and the bright green of the stem was just a bit too much, and that, like you say, it did all just clash. And once you remove that clash, it's just a much nicer picture
Mm.
and more balanced. So I think then the stem balances with the rest of the picture.
What are you going to be photographing next?
Well, more flowers. can't wait for spring. Can't wait to grow things.
Yeah.
I had intended to. So in terms of my style, I had when I looked at what I was doing, I thought, well, my thing could be that I grow my flower, because I did grow this one. You know, I grow my flowers and take pictures of them. But over the winter, it's really frustrating that, you know, I haven't got that much growing, so I've resorted to buying some flowers and taking pictures of them. But I love trying new things all the time, and you know, copying, having a go at what other people do. So most recently I had a go at taking a picture of a snowflake. Mm-hmm. So you know, the challenge of the macro photography of that, and that was great fun. And I've had a go at freezing some flowers, because I've seen some beautiful pictures of frozen flowers. So I had to go at a few snowdrops, and I think I'll have another go at that sort of thing. And yeah, all the things that I can grow in the garden. Can't wait.
Wow. Anne MacIntyre, thank you. Very insightful. Thank you for spending the time with me and telling us a little bit about your craft. It is a craft.
Thank you very much. No, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been really interesting talking to you.
Well, I think we're all going to be looking out. If you would like to see more of Anne's work, she does have a very well populated Instagram account, MacIntyre, which is the name, but you're also on Flickr.
Oh, yeah, I haven't used that for a while. I was on it, but yeah, I don't really use that now.
And are you going to be entering any other competitions this year?
Oh, I'll definitely have a go at this one again. But I think the whole thing about winning a competition isn't, it just happens to be the one that catches their eye at that moment, at that time. So I have no expectations. It's for fun.
Endlessly modest, but very, very talented and extraordinarily beautiful work.
Well, tell your students to enter.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you very much.